Here to honor Ghazi and Roxana, and this bench is a token of appreciation from the citizens of Moscow that will be an enduring legacy that will always remind us of the great work that they've done in our community and at the university. I would like to also give my appreciation to Tom Hansen for working on all the details of ordering the bench, working with the city of Moscow, and they've come through. It looks like a beautiful job. This will always be here for us to enjoy, and also for Ghazi and Roxana when they come back. They've got a place to sit.
At least a place to sit.
Yeah. Spend the night.
Well, you can lie here, another bench over there.
There's also an official announcement. They are leaving tomorrow, and any pre-announcement of their departure in approximately a year was unfounded. I would like to ask Rula if you would say a few words.
Okay, I'll stand here with Tom. I love the location of the bench because it's right on the walk and the street, and they can wave and people can sit, and so thank you for whoever decided on this location. It's an awesome location. It's really hard to think or conceive of Moscow and without the daily presence and emails from Ghazi and Roxana doesn't send the emails. She's
You'll still be getting them.
But I wanted to. I was just thinking about all the lessons that I learned from Ghazi. One of my colleagues, Margaret Salazar, and I taught a class called Cultural Encounters: The Latino Story. And Ghazi was one of our speakers. He's not Latino, of course, but he talked about Spain and about that Spain being paradise at a certain point of time where people lived in harmony, Muslims, Christians, and Jews, and it was really the rise of paradise at that time. He showed us, he came to the class and showed us slides of artist work that was gifted from Jewish artists to the mosque. He showed us all kinds of examples about the science and the medicine. And when he stood in that room and talked to the students and talked with Margaret and I, and he's an economist, he's a business person, and just ignited in me the love and passion for going above and beyond the boundaries of one's own faith, one's own discipline, one's own experience, and learning from it. I learned from Ghazi a lot about respect for knowledge. Everything he has, he would say, I have documentation for that. And then the documentation is not just one single citation, it's books and books of citations. I learned from Ghazi the importance of listening really well and humility. So he will come and we'll talk about at the commission, we'll come up with all kinds of ideas, and he'll always pose interesting questions, and sometimes he will get back on some of his opinions. So changing one's opinion is cool. It's good. Coordinating humanity at a very dark time in the history of the United States, where we had an incident here when one of our students was arrested for charges of terrorism, and everybody was afraid, and people wanted to do the right thing, and some people wanted to be silent because they were afraid of being put under the microscope themselves. Ghazi was one of there were a few people who rallied. Ghazi stood there and he said, he's my son. And just putting my son in front with the name of a person who's charged or who was actually arrested without any charge is extremely important. It's extremely, and it was profound. It reminded me of something I read. I told you that before. As a student, back in the 80s, I was a student here, and I actually read, and I didn't meet Ghazi at that time, but I remember reading something. There was a student who gave birth, and apparently a baby was found in the trash. And I remember reading in the newspaper all letters to the editor condemning condemning. And there was this letter from this guy Ghazi who said, it's a time for us to pause, think, and have mercy. Did we ask what about this young person? And it just, so I learned from him that it takes guts and courage to say the thing that other people are not saying necessarily. And that it takes patience, resilience, and persistence. If he's not, if nothing else, he is very persistent person. Sometimes I wish that we all have a little bit more of that resilience and persistence. So I learned a lot of lessons. I learned, most of all, love for everybody. Love and care for everybody. And so thank you, Ghazi and Roxana. We will see you. They will come back every summer because it's intolerable. For community walk, it's intolerable in Atlanta. So we really need to figure out all kinds of routes for them to come back here and see us. So thank you. I know each one of you have learned a lot. And oh, one last thing. I learned that from Roshan about something that Ghazi and Roxanne, along with Fanan Sheikh and Ismat, have done. And I didn't know that before. Now in Moscow Cemetery, we have a section, an Islamic part of the cemetery. And this gives me a great comfort. I didn't know that. And it's very powerful. It speaks about the people of Moscow, but it speaks also about the love and care of someone like Ghazi, Roxana, and many other communities. So thank you. Thank you.
It's also interesting because recently, about a month ago, a proposal went to the city council in Pocatello to establish a section of their cemetery for Muslims, but they were turned down. So with Ghazi intervening and providing leadership here, we see a great contrast. I would like Mayor Cheney, if you have a couple words.
A couple? That's it?
Well,
she was
would you please share?
Thank you, Tom. I'd be glad to. Thank you for asking. You know, we heard Rula talking about the way Ghazi touched her life, and the Ghazenfars have touched all of our lives in a variety of ways, and they've influenced the students who have encountered Ghazi as a professor over the years. For Rula spoke about the crossover of disciplines, not being confined by one's singular worldview, but opening up to the possibilities beyond that. And Ghazi certainly has done so. When I had this stereotypical view that somebody who is an economist, and there is at least another one in the audience here, spoke in the language of numbers. And when I get emails from Ghazi, it may be from an economic specialist publication, but his interpretation of it always comes back to what does this mean for people? What does it mean for communities? How does it relate to us as human beings on this planet together or in this community together? Rula spoke about the idea, what a wonderful location this is for this bench, and I agree with her. What I learned from Rula when I was a non-traditional student a decade or so ago was that people shape their environments, but so too do the environments shape people and the way we interact with one another. So it is especially fitting that this bench is located on a place of continuum. It's continuity of the Ghazenfars' influence on our community. It's continuity of what happens with the community walk that begins in the heart of Moscow in Friendship Square and winds its way through our town to this lovely park. But then those people disperse. They take the messages, they take the memories of that Ghazi started to wherever they go in this world and in their lives. So I am excited that this lovely bench and lovely people on it, is located in this prominent location in our city park and along this pathway, and it'll certainly cause me to reflect every time I come by here. So thank you both for your influence on all of our lives, and